21 years ago today, I let out a small wail as light and unknown people, strangers, objects were introduced into my vision. All of a sudden, I was being taken out of the comfort, the safety of this tight little cocoon, warm little blanket called the womb. And for some reason, I was sliced and diced out of there. They evicted me. No further notice. Didn't know there was a rent to pay. Damn. Welcome back to another episode of Gaining Clarity. My name is Clara. Today, June 15th, 2023, I turn 21 years old. Whoa! Could you just take a moment? I feel like 21 is a really special number. I get really sentimental about things. I like making things special. I like creating things to have more meaning. I just think it keeps life fun. And why shouldn't we keep life fun? So I'm 21 today. I remember when I turned 18 having this same feeling. Or even, honestly, I have this feeling every year. I'm just like a year older. Woo! Kind of crazy. But 21. Last year I got really sentimental because I was 20 and, no longer a teen anymore, which was symbolic. And then this year, 21 is I find symbolism within everything, but that's just who I am, to be honest. Because 21, in America, literally only in America, you can start to drink, you can start to smoke, all these things. You can basically purchase things because you're considered a legal adult now. I mean, when you're 18, you're considered a legal adult, but you're still a teenager, you're still young. And then once you're 21, it's sort of like, all right, you're entering your 20s, you're starting to take on a little bit more responsibility, start to navigate the world a little bit more. You're supposed to know how to handle life. And because of that, we're going to give you an alcoholic beverage to cope. I'm excited because of that one fact, being able to drink, going out with my friends to a brewery, to a bar, and being able to order a drink. And when the bartender asks for my ID, hi, can I see some ID? I'll be like, yes, you can. I'm so excited for that moment. I'm actually going out tonight with some friends and family. We're going out to this one place in our town that's walkable so that all three of us can drink. I have a strong feeling they won't ask me for my ID because my whole family will be there, and I think I look older when I'm with my parents. Actually, I don't know. They just don't, actually, I probably shouldn't say that. I have this little strong urge to just take a shot right now, just because I can. Anyway, so I'm going out tonight with my family. I'm really excited because I have this other family friend. He's basically like a brother from another mother. Literally, my mom and his mom have been best friends since high school. We grew up together, and he's not exactly a year older than me. He's 8 months older than me. So he already turned 21. He's turning 22 this coming October. So he literally texted me yesterday. I was like, we're going to get fucked up. So it's fun to have someone that you can do that with, especially in family. It's just a different kind of bond and different kind of fun. So I'm excited. And if they don't ask for my ID, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to show it to them anyway. But I'm excited to just order and not have anxiety. I mean, maybe I'll still have a little bit of anxiety, but just knowing that I'm chilling because I'm 21. Enough of the rambling. I wanted to talk about three big things I've learned this year, and then 3 or more. I don't know. I'm just saying 3 because good things come in threes, right? 3 big things I've unlearned this year. I oftentimes like to recap things I've learned and unlearned. This whole podcast is literally called Gaining Clarity for a reason, because I basically talk about experiences I have, things I learn, kind of just like bestowing my wisdom onto the interweb so that people can absorb it in a way that they feel called to absorb it. I feel like I could have said that way better. I have a unique way of speaking, so just bear with me. So, in true Gaining Clarity fashion, I'm going to be telling you some things I've learned. Because I think that I know what I'm talking about most of the time. I believe that I have this is one of the things I learned about myself this year, is being confident in who I am and the knowledge that I hold, and being confident within my own truth. It's not something I wrote down in my notes, but it just came to me right now. So make that 4 things I learned this year. But being confident in my truth and like really sticking with it. I was talking with my therapist the other day, and we basically uncovered that one of the reasons why I have a lot of trouble with confidence and especially speaking up and like using my voice, because I love to talk. I'm a fucking Gemini, for Christ's sake. Like, I love using my voice, but somewhere along the way, that voice got a little bit smaller, and I started making myself a little bit smaller, and I started giving other people more space when deep down I wanted to take up that space. And I've always known this. And we found out why. I mean, I've always subconsciously known why, but I like said it out loud for the first time, and I'm starting to work on it. I don't know if it's worth getting into the details. I can make a whole nother episode about that. But basically, being confident in the things I say, like being intentional with what I say, and then being confident in whatever I say, following through, taking responsibility for the things I say. Confidence. Not arrogance, ignorance, or being conceited, but just like confidence in what you have to say, knowing your value, knowing your worth. I'm going to briefly highlight the other 3 points on things I've learned this year, and then 3 things I've unlearned this year, so that you can skip around to the different chapters if one resonates with you more than another. But I encourage you to listen to all of them, because you never know if something will just hit you without even expecting it. So, first biggest lesson I've learned: hard work, discipline, and consistency. Good things come in 3s, right? So hard work, discipline, and consistency to manifest and get what you want in life. Second biggest lesson: slowing down. Why it's important to slow down mentally, physically, and emotionally. Number 3, the things that scare you set you free. No growth happens in your comfort zone, baby. 3 things I've unlearned this year. Unlearning that I'm not good enough. That's a big one. I've had the biggest shift within my self-worth this year. It's been beautiful, phenomenal. Second thing I've unlearned: hitting low points doesn't mean all of your progress has gone to waste. Third thing I've unlearned is that there isn't any correct way to approach life. So those are the main 6 points I'm going to touch on in today's episode. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet while being really intentional and being as in-depth as possible without over-explaining too much. Just getting right to the point. So starting with the biggest lessons I've learned, hard work, discipline, and consistency. That's the key to manifesting. That's the secret recipe. Within all my years of quote-unquote researching on how to get what you want, like literally I started my spiritual journey because I saw a YouTube video saying how to manifest anything you want using affirmations. And ever since then, I thought there was this like some secret magic within manifesting. Like when I heard the word manifest, I thought it was magic, like writing something down 5 times and like sending that message out to the universe, and that universe got that just abundant frequency from you writing it down 5 times and would just magically give it to you. I thought it was magic, but the type of magic where it was invisible and you had to do no work to do it other than write it down 5 times. Now, I can think of a few examples where I've actually manifested some of my desires into a tangible reality because I wanted it so bad that I almost was obsessed with it. And I was revolving my life around it, watching videos about it, creating my lifestyle surrounding it, thinking about it day and night, expressing gratitude for having it even if I didn't have it. There were 2 different occasions where that's happened because I really wanted those things. But one thing I've noticed this year is you can't think your way into your reality. And you might already be figuring this out, or you might have heard some people touch on this already. I think we're exiting that toxic positivity loop in the spiritual world and spiritual community and entering a more realistic, realistic approach, authentic approach. I think it might be called spiritual bypassing that toxic loop, but I'm not exactly sure. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, right? Hard work, discipline, consistency. Those three major points, if you work hard every day, if you're consistent every day, if you stay disciplined every day towards a specific goal, you will manifest what it is that you want. It's guaranteed. 100% it will happen. And that's the magic. If you want something bad enough, you'll go out and get it. If you're wondering why your manifestation hasn't come true yet, take some time to reflect. How have you been spending your time? How have you been spending your energy? And to go back on how this reflects onto my life and how this kind of taught me something is I've been pushing myself out of my comfort zone whenever my brain would tell me no. This kind of connects with the third point. Whenever my brain told me no because of the fear voice, you need to establish what your fear voice sounds like versus what your intuition sounds like, because those are two different voices, right? Your intuition is a gut feeling, an instinct telling you, trying to keep you safe, or, telling you that something might not be right. But your fear voice is going to feel a lot more like anxiety, feel a lot more like your ego voice, trying to hold you back, trying to keep you from moving forward. So just distinguishing what those two voices sound like for you and how they show up in your body and how they feel. Tapping into your feeling body and tapping into your body in general. Getting familiar with yourself, how you work, how you function. Through working out at the gym, I've learned discipline. Through working at my job for a year, I learned about consistency, also discipline, hard work. And through starting my business or continuing my business, I've learned hard work, discipline, and consistency. All three. And I think also the older I get, the more I notice the patterns that I go through. When these patterns first start popping up in your life, it's easy to just brush them off because they're the first time you've approached them, the first time you've acknowledged these patterns, the first time that they're happening. And then once you start to recognize that it is a pattern, it's a cycle, you can stop the cycle, you can break the pattern. And that's exactly what I've been doing, because as I grow my awareness and my self-awareness, I'm able to kind of just choose how I want to live. And I know what I want. Sometimes it's harder than other days, but I think at the end of the day, I want what's best for myself, and I want what's best for my family, and I want what's best for all of humanity in the world, and I want to make a difference here. I want to make waves. I don't know how it's going to happen yet, but just doing it. And just being real with myself, staying disciplined, staying consistent, just stop bullshitting, stop making excuses. Just do the fucking work. I used to slack off because that's how I approached school. In school, I would always take the easy way because I didn't see the value in what we were doing. Therefore, I would cheat or I would just skip things. I mean, I was a good student, but I was cheating my way to the top because I didn't see the value in the things we were learning. And then when it came to real life, I thought, okay, I did it before, I can just do it here, cheat my way to the top. But that's not how it works, because where's the failure? Where are the lessons that you've learned? Where's that character development to make you better? Change is a part of life, and it's not going to happen by skipping any steps, which is a little bit what social media has taught us by these get rich quick people and all these people promising you things that are unrealistic at the end of the day. But anyway, that's the first point. Number 2, how to slow down. Slowing down and the value within slowing down, taking rest. We are so conditioned to stay productive, to have productive days. And you've probably heard this before, but rest is productive. When intentional, when not overused, everything in moderation is great. And just when you start to overuse or abuse something, that's when it becomes not so great. Same thing with rest, but it's important to include rest. It's important to have that balance. And it's important to slow down. Sure, life is short. Live your life to the fullest. you're not going to live your life to the fullest if you're constantly focusing on the next thing you want to do. It's like, all right, my time's running out. I have to get to the next place, the next thing, da 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 da. There's so much value within slowing down and just recognizing where you are in the moment. And there's so much beauty within the present moment. And once you recognize that and realize that, there's no longer a finish line. You start to focus more on the journey, and the journey becomes the destination. And that's what slowing down teaches you. And yoga has taught me how to slow down. Meditation has taught me how to slow down. And I'm no longer in a rush. I no longer set deadlines for myself. I have to travel by this day. I have to save up this much money by this day. It's unrealistic. You create extra unnecessary stress for yourself. Just let it happen as it happens. As long as you work hard, stay disciplined and consistent, you slow down, find stillness, meditate, take time to meditate. Meditation doesn't have to look like sitting down for 20 to 30 minutes a day in stillness. It can start off with 1 minute of just focusing on your breath. It can start off by sitting in the car and recording a voice note. That can be your version of journaling for the day. Finding something that works for you and really being intentional with it. Just stop being on autopilot mode and slow down. There's so much value within slowing down. Even in the gym, I see people rushing their workouts because they think going faster and more intense is going to help them get more fit or, I don't know, maybe burn more. And I've learned to slow down, even in the gym. I lift a weight. I bring that mind-muscle connection. I'm really intentional when I lift the weight. Engage all my muscles. Breathe. Exhale, release slowly to the floor. So much value within slowing down. Your body will thank you in however many years. Even now, your body will thank you now. I've never really been one to struggle with chronic anxiety, but I get anxious moments, anxious spells. But I can confidently say that ever since I've intentionally started slowing down, I've had more control around anxious moments or whenever I start to feel anxiety coming up. Third biggest lesson I've learned this year. Oh my God, so many things. If you want to learn some other things I learned this year from my job, I have a video called Outfits of the Week, I Quit My Job Edition, something like that. And I learned about some things I learned in the last year of working at Roots, which was my last job, which also contribute to the things I've learned within this last year of being 20 years old. So number 3, the things that scare you set you free. So I actually got this quote from a song called Head in the Clouds. I forget the artist. I'll put it up on the screen if I remember. But it's a beautiful song. I really recommend it, especially if you're into spirituality, especially if you're into kind of good vibe songs, if you listen to lyrics and you like to listen to songs that you can relate to and really resonate with. And she says at one point towards the end of the song, she goes, the things that scare you tend to set you free. When I heard that, something clicked in my head. And I think this was like the week before I went skydiving. I went skydiving like a month and a half ago because I had a fear of heights. And I thought, what better way to get rid of my fear of heights than to jump out of a plane? And that, in a nutshell, tells you what kind of person I am. So if you want to know who I am, there you go. I am the type of person that will just do it. If I'm scared, I'll just do it. I won't think twice about it. It's funny because I overthink almost every other area of my life, and I'm really indecisive. But when it comes to fears, there's just a certain moment where I make a decision to do it. I tell myself I'm just going to do it, and there's no turning back for me, no negotiation. I just say I'm going to do it, and I don't know where that came from. It's like an inner knowing, intuitive thing, possibly. Just knowing, a surrender, honestly, like surrendering to whatever happens and just being okay with it. That's one way I've approached fear this last year, is just surrendering. Like whatever happens, happens. You know, I believe in reincarnation, and our soul never really dies. Our human bodies might die, but our soul stays alive. And we're here for a collective mission. Like there's a higher being, a higher knowing, whether it's God, the universe, spirit. There's something that we are all a part of. Each and every one of us. We're all connected. Nature, your brother, your mother, your mom. We're all connected. And we're just here to experience life. Whenever those fear thoughts come up in my mind, being like, there's goodness on the other side of this. I think it's very rare that when you do the things that scare you, bad things come out of it. I mean, it depends what the things that scare you are. At the end of the day, like, there's character growth there's character development, and that's something that I really am passionate about and have grown to be passionate about. I think something I've always been passionate about is like learning about yourself, like self-development. Like, I've always been keen on like improving myself and improving other people and improving quality of life. And just, I even got a tattoo recently. If you're watching the video version, I'm showing it right now. I mean, if you're listening to audio version, I'm showing my tattoo right now. It's on my left thumb, and it's a Sanskrit word. It says self-study, or in Sanskrit it would be svadhyaya. It's a niyama, one of the 8 limbs of yoga. Self-study, like I just said 5 seconds ago. I've been passionate about self-development, like learning about myself and improving myself and just being more aware, like growing my awareness, growing my consciousness. Like, I'm passionate about spirituality. Spirituality, once you have a spiritual awakening, it's not like you can choose to just not. I mean, I guess you could choose. Everything's a choice, right? But it's like that saying, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so spirituality is my life now. It's not something that is an aesthetic for me. It's not something that I do as a trend. Like, it's my life. It's something that is a part of my daily life. It impacts my decisions. It impacts my habits. And so fear has been one of the things I've been studying about myself this last year. And honoring surrendering to life, surrendering to the plans the universe has for me to guide me exactly where I need to be, by taking those steps and just making that fear voice a little bit smaller. Noticing whenever the fear voice comes up and taking that as a sign to just do it. Nothing ever really grows within your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is always going to grow. That comfort zone bubble gets bigger and bigger as you do the things that scare you. Because once you get comfortable and familiar with things that once scared you, by doing them, now you have new things that scare you outside your comfort zone, and that bubble just gets bigger, and you get comfortable with more. And then, when you choose to stop doing that and just enter a place of stagnation, maybe you stop working on yourself for a little, that bubble kind of just stays the same. Sometimes it even shrinks again, and things that you were comfortable with, you become uncomfortable with again. You have to refamiliarize yourself with that part of yourself. Yeah, fear is something I've been studying this last year. That's how I study. I didn't go to college, but I observe. And that's how I learn, by observing. That's really how you learn anything, is by making mistakes, failing, doing things you're afraid of, doing things other people are afraid of, stepping out of, the normal way to do things. That's the path I chose. And there's no right or wrong way to do things. And I'm going to talk about that in the biggest ideas I've unlearned section, because that's such a big thing. And maybe I should even just go into that right now, because that's the last thing for 3 biggest lessons I've learned. So number 1 biggest idea I've unlearned is that concept of there's a correct way to approach life. You go to school, you go to college, you graduate with your bachelor's, your master's, you find that one thing that you're good at. You build a career out of it. You make your life out of that. You earn good money. You buy a house. You start a family. You retire. You live life. You vacation. You die. I feel like that's the cookie cutter sort of way to life. And I reject that. It's way too boring for me. I need more excitement. You're telling me I gotta spend a quarter of my life in school, maybe more, and then spend another quarter of my life or more working. Not even half your life working, really. the last quarter of your life, you get to vacation, you get to live. And that is if you took good care of yourself and you're in good health and you have the privilege and you have the funds to be able to live your life, to travel, to do whatever it is. Fuck that, you know? I don't think there is a right or wrong way to do something. And that's something I'm unlearning because a lot of people around me chose that traditional way. It's definitely not, it's not safe. My parents, they were immigrants. They're U.S. citizens now. Let me clarify that. But they came here as immigrants, and they didn't go to college. They came here with money in their pockets, a suitcase, right? If you have immigrant parents, you're familiar with this story, how they had to walk 1,000,000 miles to school every day, yada, yada, yada. They came here with the money in their pocket and a suitcase. I feel like every immigrant parent has that story, but it was the reality 20-something years ago. That's how it was. And I just want to take a second to appreciate that. Like, that was their mission in life. That was their fear that they faced. Here I am facing my fears in a new way, but only because they did that. They allowed me to have this life. Everyone's going to struggle in life. Everyone's going to have their struggles. You choose what you want to struggle. Struggle's a part of life. You get to choose what your suffering is. You get to choose what you suffer for. Because it's just inevitable. It's part of life. So you can either suffer in a 9-to-5 job, or you can suffer by working your ass off every day, not knowing if you're going to make ends meet, not knowing if you're going to make your rent that month, because you're working towards your dreams every day. 2 different types of suffering. I want to take a second to appreciate and express gratitude for all the parents, all the people that did that, coming to America and taking a chance. Because, social media wasn't a thing. Nobody knew what was going on here. They just took a chance. Nothing was guaranteed. It was probably scary as fuck. I can't imagine doing that. I probably don't express that to them enough, but I'm grateful for everything they did and how much they faced their fears. It was probably a lot, which is why comfortability is so comfortable for them right now. Anyway, that's also another episode. I could do a whole new episode on that as well. There's no correct way to do life. I feel like this is such a new concept. Maybe not, actually. But if you think about it, all the most successful people in life rebelled a little bit. They did something that was not the typical path, or the number one thing that I notice within successful people, aka people who have achieved their dreams, set a goal, and then they made it, and then sometimes, not all the time, it results in, money, abundance in financial terms, and in any other way that they can imagine. And one thing I noticed about all of them is that no matter what, they did what they could to make their dreams come true. They worked hard. That first point that I made, the things I've learned: hard work, discipline, and consistency. If you follow those 3 rules of thumb, you're going to manifest whatever you want. It's just not everyone has the discipline. Not everyone stays consistent. Not everyone works hard. And in case it sounds contradictory to the point I made after that about slowing down and resting, rest is productive. If you work yourself so hard to the point where you burn out, that's not productive now, is it? But if you plan it and you're very intentional, remember, intention over anything. You have to remember your why. You have to remember your intention. Life itself is so intentional, and you have to match that intention. Anyway, I can tell you all this stuff, and it can go right out over your head. Maybe you have to learn it yourself. I'm just here to plant that seed. There's no correct way to approach life. Our parents, if you have an immigrant parent, they took a risk. Risks are where you get places. I watched the movie Air yesterday with the making of the Air Jordan basketball shoe from Michael Jordan. And in that movie, they took significant risks. No matter what, they were taking risks on so many people's families, people's jobs, their living. But this guy had this feeling, and he did what he could. It wasn't just like an irrational risk. Like, this person wasn't going out of his way to sign Michael Jordan just so they can make the most money. He had a feeling. He followed that feeling. He had a dream. He had a passion. It was what he was good at, and he followed it, no matter what the risk was. And he kept following through. You have to remember to follow through. You're going to get so many tests in life that are going to push you and try you to see if you really want it. The other day, I had a little bit of trouble uploading my last podcast. My last podcast episode with Corey Goldman. It's called Spirituality versus Modern Living. You should totally check that out. It's a beautiful 1 hour long episode. We touch on so many amazing things, including some of the things I'm talking about right now, but Corey kind of explains his side of it. But I had so much trouble uploading that video because of the file size. It was in 4K, which if you know anything about video editing, like it takes up a lot of storage and uploading time is a little bit longer. But anyway, I almost gave up. I almost gave in and I was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, screw the episode. I'm just going to have to say sorry. Like, I don't have a big following yet, so it doesn't matter. Because I love this so much, I have a feeling, I could cry right now. I have a feeling that this is exactly what I'm meant to do. When you have that feeling, you have to do your best to chase after that feeling. My good friend Christina Willems said, if you have a gift, you have to share it because it's selfish as fuck if you keep that gift from the world. And I think this is my gift. It might sound dramatic, but you can't ignore a feeling. A feeling is a feeling, and my feeling is something's going to happen with this. Even though I only have 250 subscribers, what am I saying? Only 250, that's a lot. 250 people that willingly press the subscribe button because something about me told them I want to listen to this girl talk for a little bit. And it means so much to me. I'm so grateful. Like, when I hit 300, I'll be grateful. When I hit 400, I'll be grateful. Like, sure, I have big goals and ambitions, but right now, like, I'm getting a little bit off topic, but there's no right way to do life. I had a teacher the other day stop me while I was walking my dog. He was walking his dog. Haven't seen him in forever. It's been 3 years since I graduated high school. And he was talking to me. He was like, hey, how's it going? Like, you went to the high school, right? And I was like, yeah. And he looked a little familiar, but I couldn't remember because he wasn't my actual teacher. I'd just seen him around in school. I think he maybe taught specific, you know how like sometimes teachers come into other teachers' classes to teach certain lessons? I think he was that for me. And so anyway, his face was familiar, so it wasn't like some random guy. And I see his wife walking their dog all the time too, who also worked at the high school. Anyway, he's telling me like, are you in school? Are you in college? And I was like, no, I would have been a junior this year. I would have been graduating junior year this year, but I ultimately decided not to go. And we start talking, whatever, and I tell him the path that I decided to take anyway. I told him, like, yeah, I was supposed to go to NYU. I was going to become a registered dietitian, but ultimately, like, it just didn't feel right at the time. And if you want to hear about my story, I actually have a video about that. I might have to make a new one because some of my opinions have changed, but the story is there. It's called I Got Accepted into My Dream School and Decided Not to Go. I have a whole video about that if you want to check it out. But I told him that whole situation. I told him I'm a yoga teacher and how I want to travel the world and teach yoga. I told him about my podcast. And he was like, that's great for you. I literally have a son he graduated 3 years before me, 2017. I graduated 2020. The best year to graduate. If you know, you know. He said, yeah, my son he just graduated college like 2 years ago and he works for Amazon and he hates it. So he was basically just like, good for you for doing what you want to do and like for following your dreams. And that was really validating and it filled my cup. It felt really affirming, really validating. Like I said, like, you don't always know if you're doing the right thing. How do you know if you're doing the right thing until one day there's something that kind of validates it? Like you kind of just, there's a certain point where you tunnel vision and you keep going until you realize you've made it, whatever that looks like for you, or until you realize that all this work you've been putting in like is paying off, or you're starting to see a return for the work you've been putting in. And so anyway, that moment was just like super affirming for myself, and I felt really good after that, just being like, you know what, you're right, like saying it out loud to someone else. I'm really proud of, I feel like there's a part of me, because of maybe other people or like putting their beliefs on me, but there's a part of myself that's like afraid that people are going to judge me for the path that I took. Like, what are you doing? But there's also a bigger part of me loving that I did things differently. I love that I get to be like, I'm different. I chose a different path. That's just who I am, okay? I like to be the one that sticks out. I like attention. I like to do things differently. That's just who I am. I have a Leo moon. All right? That should tell you enough if you know about astrology. And a Leo Venus. I got a lot of Leo and Gemini in my chart. And I love it. I love it. Because that's just me. That's that point. I kind of went off on a tangent, but there are a lot of good points there. And I feel really grateful for following my heart and following my passion. So that kind of right there was a reflection of that point. Just there's no right or wrong way to do things. Think about Oprah. Didn't she get famous like at 50? Your time is coming. Just have faith in yourself. And it's obviously different if your situation is a little bit different, if your lifestyle is a little bit different. But that first point, hard work, discipline, and consistency still applies. No matter where you are, you can do it. I might not be credible in that way, but I just know like that's the formula. Hard work, consistency, and discipline, and having an intention, knowing what you want, going after it. You're bound to have it because that's how life works. Nothing's going to get handed to you on a silver platter. Nothing's going to get handed to you as a freebie. You have to put in the work. And putting in the work looks different for everyone. So take time to figure out what that looks like for you. And I understand the privilege behind that statement, and I understand how lucky I am to be in the position that I'm in. But that doesn't mean that I should hold that back and keep that from anyone. It's unique for everyone, and it looks different for everyone. But that doesn't mean it's not true. So I'm just here to remind you. It might trigger some people, but I don't care. One day you're going to realize that there's truth in that. All right, moving on. Another big lesson I've unlearned is hating myself. Like, what the fuck? When did we decide that hating ourselves was a trend? I mean, obviously, when you're a teenager and you have these new feelings and emotions and you're in high school, like, people are going to have their insecurities. And, you know, ever since TikTok became a thing, people share their experiences, people share their mental illnesses, and people can relate to that because it makes you feel less alone. But then over time, I feel like it became a trend to have this, to have that. And people bonded over that. But it's like, don't you want to bond over becoming better? Becoming a better version of yourself? I know it's not easy. Trust me, I've been there. I struggle with depression. It's so dumb. So I'm unlearning that whole trend of like, I'm mentally ill. No, it's not cool. Get better. Like, why is mental illness so romanticized, so glamorized? It's not fun. But regardless, this whole narrative of hating myself, I'm unlearning that. Knowing that I can choose to love myself. Knowing that I can wake up in the morning and be like, this is my body. Okay. She's unique. I love her. And I will say the number one thing that has helped me accept my body, because that's been my insecurity for my whole life. Everyone has their thing. Everyone has the thing they're insecure about. And my thing has been my body. Like, I've always been insecure about my body, more specifically my stomach area. It's affected other areas of my life. And the number one thing that has helped me with fixing my relationship with my body and loving myself more, accepting myself more, has been accepting myself as a person and my personality and what I have to offer beyond my body. I learn a lot through observing other people as well, observing the actions of other people, or like people sharing their experiences. I absorb things like a sponge, like things that resonate. I take it and I put the puzzle pieces together to form my own truth, right? I think that's how opinions work, right? And I notice people, and I notice the most confident people. It's really about how you present yourself. And you've probably seen this on TikTok. I know I've seen a few videos on it, and it's about like confidence. What's it called? Like hotness is really just about confidence. Like, if you're confident in who you are, that's all that matters. It sounds really simple, but just think about it. If you're insecure in who you are, if you're shy, you shut down, you're putting that energy out. People can feel it. Maybe not everyone, but it's something that can be seen in one way or another if you're not confident in who you are. And even if you are a stereotypically, what's the word? Oh my God, I'm blanking. Not stereotypical, but the other word, attractive. Oh my God, what's the word? You know what I mean? Like a regular attractive person, the guidelines. Oh my God, I'm blanking, but hopefully you know what I mean. I mean, even if you are like the version of beauty that society like frames and checks all the boxes, you know, your energy can still be off-putting if you're insecure. You can look good, but your insecurity will always show. Now, let's say you have confidence. Now, all of a sudden, you're exuding a different kind of energy. For the longest time, I've never been someone too attached to my looks. Actually, that's not true at all, because I used to think that being attached to your looks meant thinking that you looked good, right? And being like egotistical and like thinking you look hot and all that stuff. But I have been attached to my looks because I've hated my looks for as long as I can remember. Always picking something apart. Always thinking I'm not good enough. But I'm choosing to say fuck that. And this last year, I've seen the most improvement within my self-love and self-acceptance journey because I'm choosing to change the narrative every day. I still hit my low points and everything, but with each low point, I grow a little bit, which actually goes on to the next point. Hitting low points doesn't mean all of your progress has gone to waste. We all have certain patterns and cycles that occur over and over and again in our lives because this is just the way life tests us, right? Like, we think we're healed. Let's see if you really are. We're going to throw this old pattern at you and see how you approach it. And that's where you're tested. And I used to think that if I gave in to that pattern, if I gave into that cycle, if I relapsed in my eating disorder, or if I relapsed, whatever, if I basically just repeated the cycle and went back to my old ways, that all the progress I made would be erased, that I haven't been getting any better, that I'm just the same as I used to be. I haven't been making any progress, but getting a therapist has changed my life, okay? She is so validating. Like, therapists are awesome. I mean, if you have the right therapist, like, not all therapists are created equal, but my therapist, love her. Shout out to you. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. She introduced me the upward spiral. I've probably talked about this in another podcast episode. I can't remember, but I will never stop preaching this. Upward spiral. We think we're going into a downward spiral whenever we repeat a pattern or whenever we go into old ways, but upward spiral, best thing that's ever been introduced to me, I swear. So you hit a low point, and then you eventually come out of it because nothing lasts forever unless you're really, for some reason, hanging on to this negative thing. Nothing lasts forever. You're going to come out of it. Whatever goes up must come down. Whatever goes down eventually goes up. Intention over everything, awareness, putting in the work. However, as a general concept, upward spiral basically says, sure, you might be hitting a low point, but from that low point, since the last time, you've learned something new. So that next time you hit a low point, you have that new tool. And maybe that low point isn't as intense as the last one. Maybe the next one isn't as intense as the last one. And then maybe the next one isn't as intense as the last one. And you learn something new. And it's been a lot easier to do this because of my therapist, with my therapist. The last time I had a low point or I struggled was in the month of February, which was 3 months ago. And so I hit a low point again 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was rough. Like, it's almost as if the last low point I had was stretched over a month, and it was just like, just feeling like shit. Like a low, like, vibe every single day. Not necessarily terrible, where I felt hopeless, but just like that existential dread every single day. And like being like, I suck, whatever my things are, right? Repeating old patterns. But this time, oh my God, it's like all of that was compressed. That 1 month that I had in February where I had existential dread every day was compressed into one day Well, it happened like over the span of 3 days where it just built up. That's how I know it's about to happen, is when it starts little by little. And then that last day, oh my God, I can't even tell you. It was bad. Like the worst I've had since December, 6 months ago. Anyway, I'm learning about myself either way. And I learned something from that last cycle. If you're in a low cycle right now or hitting a low point right now, don't expect to feel enlightened by this. Don't expect to feel revolutionized by this. You'll probably be like, fuck you. Why are you telling me I'm going to learn something from this? I feel like shit. I hear you, sister or brother, whatever. Listen to this again when you're in a good state of mind. Because I was listening to voice notes where I was all enlightened and I learned stuff from my low points. And I was like, fuck you, Clara. You're telling me that I'm going to learn something from this? I feel like shit right now. Let me just nuzzle into my cocoon. Like, feel your feelings. Add that to the biggest lessons I learned this year. Feel your feelings. Take the time to feel your feelings. However it may show up, the more you resist and the more you're like, I shouldn't feel this way, the deeper it's going to go. I took a solid 3 days that I didn't feel great to lay on the couch and watch TV all day. I felt like shit every single moment of it because I was like, I should be going up for my hot girl walk. It'll make me feel better. But I really did not want to. And it made me feel even shittier thinking that I had to do that. And then one day I just gave in and I just gave in to all the shitty emotion. I felt it all. I journaled about it, reflected on it in like a video journal. I like to take videos of myself and talk. Literally what this is. But like for myself, voice memos, talking it out. And then the final chapter of the grieving process and that low point was expressing myself to my mom, which is something that's really hard for me. But it's something that a part of me really wanted to do, was tell somebody, or like whether it's like, I don't know, I just get so sick of talking to myself sometimes. Like I need to tell my mom, like I just want my mom, you know? And after that, I started slowly getting better. Like that was really healing for me. So I learned that healing is not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen with one therapy session. It's not going to happen with one conversation with your parents. It's not going to happen with one journaling session. It's going to happen over time because of that upward spiral. Because every time you hit a low point, you're going to learn something from it. You're going to hit low points. Like, it's just inevitable. That's how life works. Life ebbs and flows, baby. Just because you hit a low point doesn't mean that all the progress you've made is just gone in the dumpster, gone in the trash. Every time you hit a low point, you're learning something new. You're leveling up a little bit, whether you know it or not. And you also have to remember to bring awareness to that and be intentional with that. Because you can hit a low point. It all depends on your mindset. You can hit a low point and be like, oh my God, like life sucks. Like I'm not getting any better. Like everybody hates me. And then whatever, go back to being yourself and just repeating the same patterns and everything that made you feel that way. You can take something from that and change your ways. You can always change. You always have a choice. We change every single day. I think that's about it. Wow, it's been an hour. I wonder if I'll keep the whole hour of this or maybe condense it down to 45, but I touched on a lot of good things. There's a lot of value within this episode, and I feel confident that I put in my 2 cents. It's been really interesting transitioning from solo episodes to guest episodes. This is the first solo episode I've done in probably a month and a half. Like, don't get me wrong, the last 2 episodes I've done with my guests have been fabulous. But whenever I edit them and, like, look back at them, I'm adding on my own narrative in my head. It's like, oh, I wish I said that, or oh, I wish I said that. Like, but in the moment, it's so hard because whenever I record with other people, I'm just so in the moment, like, listening to them. Even watching back, it's so funny because I'll be like, they'll say something, and I'm just like, yeah. Like, what kind of commentary is that? Yeah. But I think it's because I'm leaving that space for them. It's almost like I enter therapist mode or something. Nah, it's just called active listening, baby. I become, like, I receive. I allow them to talk their talk. It's all part of the learning process. It doesn't have to be perfect to begin with. Like, you perfect it along the way. Growing up is weird because it's like you just become aware of more things. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like each year I'm like, oh my God, I get it now. Oh my God, I get it now. Oh my God, I hate life. But oh my God, I get it now. Oh my God, I love life. I kind of hate it, but I kind of love it. I just get it a little bit more every year. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. I'm trying to just be me. I'm learning about authenticity a lot. Like relearning what authenticity means to me. I've always been passionate about authenticity, staying true to yourself, but authenticity is just like a journey of like rediscovering yourself and like staying true to yourself. Going back to who you were as a kid before you cared about what the world thought of you. While still being an adult at the same time, because responsibility is a thing. We have responsibilities to uphold in this world. Still gotta stay attached to reality. I think that's also a way that I've grown is I used to be really detached from reality, thinking one thing more than the other. And now I'm just finding this balance of both spiritual versus modern world. Anyway, cheers to 21. Cheers to growth. Cheers to learning more about ourselves and studying ourselves and bringing awareness and expanding our consciousness. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to give it a thumbs up. I never say this. I should start saying this. It's at the end of the episode anyway. Whoever listens to the end. If you listen to the end of this, comment down below what kind of pancakes you like. I've been really loving pancakes recently. Chocolate chip and blueberry are my go-to. Comment down below what your favorite kind of pancakes are if you listen to the end of the episode. I would love to see at least one comment saying what kind of pancakes they like. Otherwise, that'd just be embarrassing. Not really. I don't care. I'm becoming more secure. So whether you comment or not, I don't give up. But no, I would appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, if you resonated, if you got something out of it. I would love to hear your thoughts on some of these topics down in the comments. Or I don't know if there's like a discussion session on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But if there is, feel free to leave a discussion. I love interacting with people. Come on now. Don't be shy. I don't bite most of the time. Remember that Leo moon? But yeah. Subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot. I think that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for listening to this episode of Gaining Clarity. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!